Hello everyone, welcome to a very informal and hopefully fun video. I had this idea a few days ago where I was thinking about the Dark Pictures Anthology and something else that I could do related to it, and I thought, we have leaked titles. Let's do some speculating. So the idea for this video is that I'm going to just look at the titles of the leaked Season 2 games and their logos, and we're going to make terrible conspiracy theory predictions about what the games are going to be about. So we can just kind of jump right into this. We already have a trailer and a premonition for Directive 8020, so I'm going to go ahead and start there. Obviously, this will not really be, a truly blind set of guessing based on the title and everything like that. But, still, I think we've got some places where we can go ahead and theorize. Some very interesting places that we can go with this one. When I played The Devil in Me, I saw them. And then I saw them briefly while editing my video. But I haven't really watched them, so we're going to go ahead and just react to them, I guess. So we're going to do the premonition first because it's shorter. Let's just take a look at this. All right. Got nothing from that. Ooh, are they going to show it again? All right, cool. And then next up is the trailer.
This is Commander Stafford. The forward will...
Okay, pausing here because my poor friend Jalen, I am sorry, I did not believe you initially. I got confused between the Cassiopeia and the Cetus constellation. I just latched onto Cassiopeia, but I was specifically looking for Cetus, so I have no idea how I missed it. But those of you who've played House of Ashes, you might remember Cetus being a very important location, so it is very cool that these are just straight out, obviously, connected, most likely.
Reconnaissance vessel Cassiopeia. After successfully rendezvousing with a Charybdis marker, we have detached the booster ring and spurts are high as we make our final approach to Tau Ceti F. The ship has suffered a hull impact, but damage is minimal, and our technicians are restoring full functionality.
This is Thomas Carter. Something's wrong with Sims. She's trying to kill me. I think...
So that's a classic House of Ashes moment, and of course a whole bunch of other things that these games are all drawing inspiration from. It's not like it's the first, parasite alien that will turn somebody against the rest of their friends, but still, it is cool that this is a clear link, it looks like.
Our next transmission will be broadcast from orbit around humanity's future home. Stafford out.
All right, I'm going to flip back through and see if I can see the flashes. Ooh, okay. I guess it does kind of look like House of Ashes with the little cocoons, but I don't know whether those had anything to do with the originating alien species or the parasitic alien species. There was another trailer, or there was another little flash earlier in the video. Is there anything in? So we've got goo, it looks like, on... it looks like the helmet is shattered, but it looks like there might be goo. It looks kind of like we're looking down that same hallway that we got the flash of, but it's not really clear. Ooh, pretty. Very cool. All right, great. All right, let's go ahead and have these up here. So, Directive 8020, going to be pretty straightforward, it looks like. We've got sci-fi theme on a spaceship, looks like a generation ship. They've gone to Cetus. I don't know how far away Cetus is. The joke among astronomers is that we don't know any constellations, and God, is that accurate. So I don't know anything about Tau Ceti F either. This looks like a good thing to search. Where is Tau Ceti? Single star in the constellation Cetus, similar to the sun. Okay, cool. So we have a main sequence G-class star. Tau Ceti F is a super Earth or a mini Neptune. I saw earlier. It looks like it is confirmed as a super Earth. It's in the extended habitable zone. That's pretty sweet. Okay, so habitable zone stars and planets aside, So generational ship traveling. God, how far out is this? I just said that I'm not going to go into it, but I lied. How far away is Tau Ceti from us? Oh, okay. 12 light years away, relatively nearby. That's not too bad. I don't know much of anything about projected travel times. Obviously, I know how light works and light years work. I don't really know, how fast our expected ship motion would be at that point in time, how long this journey would take, blah, blah, blah. So I can't predict anything about how far into the future this ship would have launched, but it looks like the game takes place in 8020, so we are very, very far in the future. Whether or not that ship was in space for thousands and thousands of years, which is probably most likely, we don't know, doesn't really matter. So it looks like we have a direct tie-in with House of Ashes. I will be very surprised if it's not a direct tie-in, considering the same constellation, and that this will obviously be an alien kind of themed game. So this actually would link House of Ashes with the most other games. So we have a direct link between House of Ashes and Little Hope due to Eric and Rachel visiting the diner outside of Little Hope. So we know that these two games are at least in the same world. We know that House of Ashes is connected to Winterfold, which will be another coming game due to the scientists at the very end in the epilogue talking about the incident in Winterfold or something like that. And there was a cool theory about House of Ashes being connected to Man of Medan, and that potentially Manchurian gold was created from the like noxious substance that the aliens exude, which never really comes up in House of Ashes at all, except for that particular note that Rachel can find that talks about the hallucinogenic properties. So that could potentially tie it to Man of Medan as well. I don't know of any link between House of Ashes and The Devil in Me. There may be none. It would make perfectly reasonable sense for there to be no connection between them. But then House of Ashes and Directive 8020 are probably connected. So it is most likely that all of these games at this point are probably connected to each other, which is pretty cool. I remember early on in the Dark Pictures, we weren't entirely sure whether they were going to connect in any sort of way other than the curator. So I'm pretty excited about this. Looks like this is going to be kind of a standard space aliens, parasitic aliens, people start attacking their comrades sort of horror game. So this is a great setting. Spaceships are great settings for horror. They've been used to great effect in video games and movies for a long time. Obviously, the Among Us jokes are there. I doubt any of them will be called upon, but I'm sure we will have a lot of fun with Among Us jokes. So my guess for this one is we have a direct connection with House of Ashes, as I said, but we have a direct connection specifically with the parasitic aliens, not the ones that kind of turned into the vampires. It's implied in House of Ashes that the ship was kind of like an escape, that the species that turns into the vampires are the last of their kind, perhaps, running away from what's happened. So I don't know whether we might have any of these types of aliens in this game, or if it's just going to be the parasites. I assume just the parasites. I wonder if the spacesuits will be really important in kind of concealing which characters are infected and which aren't, because obviously in House of Ashes we had very large, very obvious transformations happen. Of course, thousands and thousands of years in the future, we had a lot of time for the parasitic aliens to potentially evolve and change their methods, so it's possible they wouldn't cause such a big change in their hosts anymore. But when it comes down to it, I think that Directive 8020 is going to be a relatively straightforward space horror that's going to tie into House of Ashes in terms of reusing the aliens. Aside from that, I don't know what we would have with plot. I presume this will be straightforward because I don't think you would have a strange twist in this particular one. I think that this will probably be what it seems, unless there is some sort of grand overarching twist to like the aliens themselves, like that the parasitic aliens are actually host to other parasitic aliens, something like that. I don't think that the main plot is going to be too complicated, but who knows. All right, let's go on to the next game. So I'm kind of picking these in just random order, but let's go ahead with the Craven Man next. So we have kind of an oldish font, another like, Middle Ages style font. Looks like a Wicker Man dude. I never saw the Wicker Man, so I don't know anything about it. Craven is like weak or cowardly or uh, weak-willed, I want to say. Let me look it up just to be totally sure. Craven, contemptibly lacking in courage, cowardly. Middle English, from Craven to defeated. Okay, generally not a super common word, but yeah, just means cowardly mostly. So just by looking at this, I think this is going to be another period piece, kind of like Little Hope, though with any luck we'll actually be staying in that time period instead of Little Hope's completely wild timeline. It's kind of hard to say from this logo alone and the title alone what kind of actual horror theme we're going with. The Wicker Man style logo here makes me kind of think one of two ways. One is that this Craven Man is some sort of like monster creature that is maybe not an actual monster, but the legend is, kind of built him up as a monster. Kind of like maybe like the stranger in Until Dawn. He's not actually a threat, but you're kind of tricked into thinking he's one as he just kind of lurks in the woods like a little creep, but turns out he's fine. Could be something like that, where this guy kind of just like lives on the outskirts and local legends have made him more dangerous than he is, and there is something going on and you think it's the work of this guy and blah blah blah, and they have to like solve it. On the other hand, we could go like full Slenderman kind of thing, because this looks like kind of like a horror creature. So we could have, a legend where somebody has turned into this evil cursed person, and they really are some sort of evil cursed person. It would be cool if this took place somewhere outside of the US, and I know Man of Medan and House of Ashes did, but it would be cool if this was like maybe set in England or something like that, in medieval England or something. So that's probably as much as I can guess on the Craven Man, just from its particular theming. But cool logo. There's something really eerie and off about this dude. So real quick aside here while I'm editing, I realized what it was that was creeping me out about this logo. I won't spoil it, but any of y'all read The Enigma of Amigara Fault? Yeah. We're skipping O Death for now because I believe that's going to be the last one. So let's go to Intercession. Let's go ahead and just look up Intercession. Okay, cool. The action of intervening on behalf of another, or specifically the action of saying a prayer on behalf of another person. So prayers of intercession. I imagine that is the usage here. So between that and the upside down cross, I'm going to guess that maybe this is a possession story, something exorcist-like. This seems like it would fit. This is a very, very Diablo font. Is it the same one as the Craven Man? It is not, I don't believe. No, these are different. So different font, but reminds me of very much reminds me of Diablo. So yeah, so initial thought here is that this is going to be a possession style one. You're going to have kind of exorcism themes. I don't know how the actual threat might be set up for this one. So it's possible you would have somebody who was possessed and who was in active danger, or it might be more of a metaphysical kind of thing. That would be a neat way for things to go if you're trying to exorcise somebody within your friend group or something, or demons are possessing people in the group. Kind of like, again, the House of Ashes with the parasite, but, more subtle, I guess. And you would have to play trying to figure out who was possessed and the people who were possessed, how to save them from these demons. But I really like this one. I like this logo because I like that it's actually affecting the dark pictures, as opposed to like, here we go, this is what these would normally look like. But this one has actually just gone all the way up into it. So I like that. That's pretty cool. We haven't had any religious horror yet. Not really, anyway. I mean, I guess we had the House of Ashes itself, and we had the witch burning, but those really don't count, I don't think. This is going to be, I think, very traditional religious horror, Christian religious horror. All right, next we have Winterfold. So Winterfold is the only one of these games we've actually heard about, which, as I mentioned before, it's in House of Ashes. They talk about it in universe as the scientists in the epilogue are discussing previous events. Something like this would turn into, I was like thinking this would turn into Winterfold all over again or something like that. Or this might be another Winterfold or something. There's a few specific things that kind of implies along with the logo here. First off, we know Winterfold's time period, just very vaguely, but we know it takes place before House of Ashes, so pre-2003. So that at least gives us some sort of date. Assuming that the scientists had been involved in Winterfold and weren't just talking about something they had heard, they both sounded like they were maybe in their 20s or 30s, so we have like kind of a set time span here that this could have happened, you know, probably early 90s to 2003, maybe a little bit before. So Winterfold's logo here, this is kind of a modern font, not an extremely modern font, but it's obviously not like Intercession here. But notice the handprints. So this to me looks like a containment zone. So zombies, maybe? We haven't actually had our true zombie horror yet from Supermassive, so kind of seems about time. You know, we've had pseudo-zombies with the House of Ashes possession and the, I guess the Wendigo count, sort of. And then like the Man of Medan hallucinations. I think some of them were zombie-ish. I really don't remember because I really don't remember anything about Man of Medan. But I think that this may be a zombie one. So that would fit with what the scientists were saying, kind of like being concerned about the situation overall, as well as the similarity to the House of Ashes stuff with the parasites, you know, taking people over and turning them into zombies. So if they were concerned this would be another Winterfold, then that would make sense, that this would be some sort of contagion or outbreak or zombification thing. But yeah, so it looks like a little handprint on glass. I assume maybe an observational window or just a very traditional horror, you know, looking in through a window and someone, you know, zombie slams their hand up against it. So I think this will be a zombie one, and I think that it would be a real zombie one. Since the scientists are involved, that means that this is probably not something like Little Hope or even Man of Medan. Man of Medan, I guess, technically was not super mundane, but it was also not a supernatural event unless the Manchurian Gold had like a supernatural origin. So I guess that one can kind of get categorized in that, I don't know. But Winterfold, since the scientists are involved, I would imagine this is a true supernatural or at least classified type incident. So something real, not like a hallucination like Little Hope. I think Winterfold is my favorite logo so far, actually. It is the most evocative looking. I really like it. I mean, I love the aesthetic for Directive 8020, but I think Winterfold is the coolest logo. All right, and that leaves us with Oh Death. So we've got our little friend here. He's got the sides on it, not very subtle here. So it's long been theorized, of course, that the curator is a Reaper or Death himself. I think either of these are entirely possible, though I am now leaning more toward the Reaper theory because he does seem to get in trouble a lot. If he were Death himself, I don't think he would be answering to anybody. So I presume he is a Reaper, potentially one that is maybe a little too sympathetic and wants to let people, you know, wants to let people have like a more of a chance to get a good outcome. He's hard to get a read on whether he wants you to succeed or not succeed in these sorts of games. But considering how many hints he gives you and all of that, I think he is maybe more invested in a particular outcome, whether that is, you know, actually more succeeding or whether he more wants you to fail. But I get the impression he more wants you to succeed. Otherwise, he wouldn't really be offering hints and things like that. So my wild theory for this one is that this will be the end one. This will be the actual curator story, as in you'll be following him either as a Reaper or if he was potentially alive beforehand and became a Reaper. I think this is going to center around him a lot and center around the meta plot a lot. It's entirely possible that this will take place after all of these other games and that the curator kind of segments that entire game will just be in that setting. So not like a, you know, a prologue or anything like that, but that this is like going to actually, we're in with the curator now and we're playing through whatever plot is going to continue that is happening after he has let you deal with all these stories and, you know, things like that. I also feel like maybe he's training the player to take his place. So I think that we might work with that theme. I think this one will be completely supernatural, unless that it's some sort of like flashback where you like have the origin story or something like that. But yeah, I can't really decide whether I think we would have an origin story or continuation story. We might have both. We might have the origin story playing out as the main game, and then the continuation in the curator segments are a bit more interactive than they typically are, because we have a second story running there. I think that could be likely. I would probably lean toward, at this point, it being a continuation story rather than a prologue. I think we will actually be active in the curator's world, if that makes sense. All right, so I thought this would take a little bit longer than it did, but I guess there just really wasn't that much to talk about besides 80/20. So I feel like the Craven Man is probably the most mysterious of these games. It's the only one where I don't have some sort of kind of firm idea of what the general premise might be. Obviously, Directive 80/20, we already have the trailer and everything. I feel like Winterfold gives us enough hints. Intercession's logo gives us enough hints what it's about, and then Death, we have a lot of room to speculate, but we know it's probably about the curator, especially because he's in the logo, but also just because we need to fill that story out all the way. So the Craven Man is the one where I don't even really have the first clue where they're going to go with it, except that I have a feeling it will be a maybe medieval time, maybe in England, and I think that there will be a particular Craven Man who is the threat, or the red herring threat at least. This one may be a magic-based one for all we know. Maybe we'll follow back to witches again. That would be pretty cool. The Little Hope witch stuff was really, really well done. I know that was like the favorite of most people until we got to the ending. Rest in potential. But Little Hope aside, Intercession will be cool. I don't know if any of y'all, here, going on a side tangent for a minute, I don't know if any of y'all have watched the show Evil. It's really good. It's really weird and very funny, and also dark and creepy. So if you like that kind of weird stuff, I would definitely suggest checking Evil out. And it just gets better each season as they kind of figure out what they're doing, and they can get away with more and more. But yeah, I'm hoping Intercession kind of goes an evil-ish theme, where we have the weird, creepy, religious stuff. I'm really excited for Directive 80/20 because I love space horror, but I think the one of these that I'm the most curious about is actually Winterfold, which I'm surprised by because I am not a zombie person. I don't have any particular issue with like zombies. I'm not like, they don't creep me out or anything. I think zombie horror is really tired and really boring at this point. It's basically all the same thing over and over and over again, especially with the people who are trying to be edgy and grimdark. And it's like, okay, whatever. You could just go watch Lost if you want to be depressed. We already went through this once. Like, everything else is just Lost with zombies. I mean, change my mind. No, I really don't like zombies. I think they're boring, especially in video games. However, I think that they might be interesting here, and I think that Winterfold might have a lot of potential. So, what do y'all think? What are your theories? Do you have completely different theories from me, or do you agree on some of these? How excited are you for Directive 80/20? How do we think that the Dark Pictures Anthology cinematic universe is connecting? Is it going to be like House of Ashes, like in the center that has spokes off to everything, or are we going to start to see more weaving connections between them all? How does Devil in Me tie in to House of Ashes, Man of Medan, and Little Hope, even just, really tentatively? Like, Man of Medan and House of Ashes have a very, very tentative link. This is not proven or even really strong circumstantial evidence. But what do you think? Is there anything else I've obviously missed in these logos? I do know there was another game name leaked that was like registered by Supermassive, but I don't think it's part of the Dark Pictures, so I decided not to include it here. I thought that the Dark Pictures would be good enough. So yeah, that is it. So I hope this video was fun. You had a good time with some crazy theorizing, and please feel free to leave your theories down below. I definitely want to chatter about this sort of thing with y'all. Especially if you guys have thought of more connections that I have missed. So all of that said, thanks for getting to this point, and thanks for watching.